You're saying it one-sided. You're not telling the other side of the story of what they're doing either. You're not saying what Hamas did. You're not saying what they did.
What did Hamas do?
I mean, from day one, when you see the rapes and the videos, we've all seen it. This isn't something
What rapes and videos?
But stay on this here if you want to continue with this.
But what rapes and videos?
But my concern when you're saying Israel's doing it, you're saying the other side isn't doing anything?
No, but I'm asking. No, there was no rapes during October 7th. They've shown no rapes from October 7th. They showed no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
I'll send you stuff. No, there's plenty of stories. It's not all of them.
The Israeli articles that I saw recently said that there was only 2 babies killed. One was shot by a bullet, and the other one died in a hospital. There was no babies in ovens. There was no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
You need to see this, because Patrick Bet-David wasn't ready for what happened on his own set. And the person who dismantled him wasn't a journalist, wasn't a policy expert, wasn't even someone Patrick expected to challenge him like this. It was Dan Bilzerian. On Patrick's own platform, in the middle of Valuetainment, Dan systematically tore apart Patrick's talking points on Palestine. The usual excuses didn't hold. The recycled, "We've all seen the videos" defense fell flat. And for the first time, you could actually see Patrick lose control of the conversation. No slick pivots, no confident deflection, just a man realizing his narrative wasn't surviving contact with reality. This wasn't a debate Patrick lost quietly. This was a moment where his entire posture cracked on camera. So make sure you watch this all the way through, because I'm going to walk you through how Dan used Patrick's own words to box him in, and why people online are calling this one of the most humiliating moments in Valuetainment history. Before we get into it, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I love seeing how global this community really is. And if you want more breakdowns like this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to watch is unreal.
Okay, no, every country, the big ones all have lobbyists. They all have lobbying that they're doing.
Not in the U.S. They're registered as foreign entities.
Right. I mean, if you're talking about, are you going to the dual citizenship part with Israel, Israel?
That's another problem is a lot of our politicians have far more allegiance to Israel than they do the United States. I mean, that's a whole nother issue as well.
Do you know why they did the dual citizenship? Do you know the history behind why they did the dual citizenship?
What do you mean?
Like, so the whole concept of dual citizenship was because when Israel became a, country again, they didn't want the people from here who wanted to go back to Israel that didn't have a motivation to go if they were going to lose their citizenship here. So that was the reason why they did it. It was kind of like, okay, you're your own country. We kind of need some of you guys to move over there to help the country out. Yeah, but I'm not going to go. Why are you not going to go? Am I going to lose my citizenship here? But you are. I mean, we don't do that. Every other country, I don't want to lose my citizenship. Well, okay, how about if we do this? How about if we allow you, just Israel, to go back to your country, you won't lose your citizenship? That was the arrangement at the beginning why they did it that way.
No, look, I get it. I have 3 citizenships. You know what I mean? I think it's okay. I think
what's the third one? I know Armenia, but what's the
St. Kitts?
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have an issue with dual citizenship. My issue is when somebody is holding a U.S. office and they are putting a foreign nation's interest before America's interest, and they are favoring that other country. And so that to me is treason. Like when you are a U.S. government official, your motivation should be to do things in the best interest of the government that you are representing, not 100%. Some other fucking foreign country. And that's the problem.
Okay, so, but go through it. So what is the solution? Meaning, if Israel's the enemy, then if let's just say you don't do anything and everybody in the Middle East unites to take out Israel, do you think the Middle East is better without Israel? And do you think the world's a safer place without Israel?
100%. It's not even close.
Okay, tell me why. Why do you think?
Give me an argument otherwise, please. But give me one argument why the world would be better off with Israel. Let's just start with that. One thing. Give me one thing.
Have you ever lived in the Middle East?
No.
I lived there for 10.5 years. It's a very, it's not as like here. You can sit here, you can be an atheist, you can be an agnostic, I can be a Christian, he can be a Jew, he can be an LDS, Muslim, no problem. We can coexist here. You can do that in Israel. You can do that.
I mean, not really. They're operating apartheid right now. So everybody's not living equally.
Not at the level of Iran. Not at the level of what Iran is doing. I mean, in Iran, if you're thinking what Israel is doing out of control, do you know how much money Khamenei's family's made? Do you know how much money they've taken? They have 200.
I've never been to Iran, but I've been to Dubai. I've been to Saudi. Like I've been to UAE. So like, and they're all Muslim. They seem to be operating fine.
I would say Iran's slightly different than. But go back to it. So okay, so you think the Middle East and the world would be a better place if Israel didn't exist?
Yes.
Okay.
Israel's committed, so many terrorist attacks. They're stealing land right now. They're operating apartheid. They're currently committing a genocide on Palestinians. Like, do you believe in the genocide they're committing?
I think they're fighting for themselves and they're defending themselves.
Do you think that's defense?
Well,
when 1,200 people died, and of which the 1,200 you've killed, and admitted that you've killed a lot during, your Hannibal.
I will tell you this. The part I question, where people who are Jewish can't stand when I say this, I don't know how you, Netanyahu, claim you have the best intelligence in the world, Mossad, and you didn't know that on October 7th they're attacking.
They knew about it. They didn't. They wanted it to happen, so they had a reason to take that. Yeah, they wanted a reason to take the land.
I totally get it.
And they killed their own citizens. And they claimed that all these people got. That was bullshit. They claimed beheaded babies. That was bullshit. Everything that they said was a fucking complete. Not only was it a lie, but they committed all those atrocities themselves to the Palestinians and been caught doing it. In fact, they just got caught gang Palestinians. How many babies have they killed? All the things that they accuse the Palestinians of, or Hamas of, or whatever, they're guilty of 100-fold themselves. And they've been doing that. Like, October 7th wasn't the start of this. Like, the start of this was Nakba. They've done so many different.
Disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, so I mean, this is not like, it's not like October 7th is like, it's all of a sudden they just came over there unsolicited and just killed people. Like, they have been killing Palestinians for years and years, operating two sets of justice. It's like they have the justice for the Palestinians and the justice for the Israelis. And if you read the Talmud, like, if you're not Jewish, you're basically not a human. You're like, like cattle. If a Jew is killed by, somebody that's not Jewish, then it's the death penalty. If a Jew kills somebody that's not a Jew, then, you can't kill them. It's not the death penalty. Like, they literally like segregate in their Bible.
They're very protective of themselves. I don't think anybody can debate that. I don't think it's a...
Well, it's not the problem isn't that they're protective of themselves. The problem comes when you think that you're better than other people, and you think it's okay to lie to anybody that's not a Jew. You think it's okay to steal from people that are not a Jew. You have two sets of standards. The problem with that is it allows you to rationalize anything, right? And human beings are generally self-serving creatures. So if your fundamental religious belief system allows you to operate in such a way that you believe there isn't consequences to stealing from other people, killing other people, raping, kids that are under 9 years old, like, if you think those things are okay, then, how are you going to operate? Because to me, like, my moral code keeps me on track.
I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's because you're saying it one-sided. You're not telling the other side of the story on what they're doing either. You're not saying what Hamas did. You're not saying what they did.
What did Hamas do?
I mean, from day one, when you see the rapes and the videos, we've all seen it. This isn't something
what rapes and videos?
But stay on this here if you want to continue with this.
But what rapes and videos?
But my concern when you're saying Israel's doing it, you're saying the other side isn't doing anything?
No, but I'm asking. No, there was no rapes during October 7th. They've shown no rapes from October 7th. They showed no beheaded babies. All that was bullshit.
I'll send you stuff. No, there's plenty of stories. It's not all of them.
The Israeli articles that I saw recently said that there was only 2 babies killed. One was shot by a bullet, and the other one died in a hospital. There was no babies in ovens. There was no beheaded babies. All that was all bullshit.
What really stands out in this exchange is not just how shaky Patrick Bet-David's arguments are, but how much effort he puts into avoiding the core facts once they're placed directly in front of him. He keeps insisting that Dan is being one-sided, yet never actually engages with the substance of what Dan is saying. That accusation becomes a shield, not a rebuttal. It's a way to dodge accountability without having to defend the indefensible. Patrick leans heavily on the phrase, "We've all seen the videos," but that line collapses the moment you ask a simple follow-up question. Which videos? Verified by whom? And confirmed by what independent investigation? Because once you move past headlines and emotional repetition, the evidence simply isn't there. Israeli officials themselves walked back claims about mass rapes and beheaded babies. Major outlets quietly issued corrections. Even Israeli media acknowledged that many of the most extreme allegations could not be substantiated. That's not conspiracy. That's documented reporting. Instead of grappling with that reality, Patrick retreats into moral ambiguity. He frames Israel's actions as self-defense, while refusing to acknowledge the overwhelming imbalance of power. Israel controls Gaza's airspace, borders, water, electricity, food supply, and population registry. Gaza has no army, no navy, no air force. International law is very clear on this point. An occupying power cannot claim self-defense against the people it occupies. That's not a radical opinion. That's the position of the UN, the International Court of Justice, and virtually every major human rights organization, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, both of which have explicitly labeled Israel's system as apartheid. Patrick also avoids engaging with the genocide question in any meaningful way. He dismisses it emotionally, not legally. But genocide is not determined by vibes or political loyalty. It's determined by intent and outcome. Israeli officials have openly spoken about erasing Gaza, thinning its population, cutting off food and water, and making the territory unlivable. That language matters. That's why genocide scholars, including Israeli Holocaust historians, have warned that Gaza meets the legal threshold for genocidal intent. Patrick doesn't refute those experts. He simply pretends they don't exist. Then there's his constant pivot to Hamas, which is another intellectual escape hatch. No one is denying Hamas committed crimes. But international law does not allow collective punishment. Killing thousands of children, bombing hospitals, targeting aid convoys, and starving a civilian population cannot be justified by pointing at a militant group. Patrick treats Palestinians and Hamas as interchangeable, and that alone exposes the moral failure of his framing. 2 million people are not a terrorist organization. The dual citizenship discussion reveals another uncomfortable truth Patrick doesn't want to sit with. Dan raises a legitimate concern about U.S. officials prioritizing Israeli interests over American ones, something even former U.S. politicians have publicly admitted. AIPAC is the most powerful foreign lobby in Washington. It spends more than any other foreign-aligned group. That's not opinion, that's Federal Election Commission data. Patrick responds by offering historical trivia instead of addressing the conflict of interest staring everyone in the face. Explaining how dual citizenship began does not answer whether it is appropriate for U.S. lawmakers to advance foreign policy positions that contradict international law and American public opinion. What makes this exchange so revealing is Patrick's tone. He sounds careful, guarded, corporate. Dan sounds blunt, uncomfortable, and honest. Patrick is managing optics. Dan is confronting reality. Patrick keeps searching for a safe middle ground where no powerful interest is offended. But neutrality in the face of mass civilian death is not wisdom. It's cowardice. And the longer the conversation goes on, the clearer it becomes that Patrick's position isn't built on evidence, but on risk management. He doesn't want to upset donors, allies, or gatekeepers. That fear shows up in every deflection, every vague appeal to both sides, every refusal to name crimes plainly. Dan, for all his flaws, says what millions are thinking but rarely hear acknowledged on platforms like this. This is why Patrick looks rattled. Not because Dan is perfect, but because Dan refuses to play the polite lie everyone else has agreed to maintain. When someone finally says out loud that Israel is not a stabilizing force, that it fuels regional instability, that its policies have radicalized generations, the usual talking points stop working. Patrick's framework depends on silence around those facts. Dan shattered that silence. By the end of this exchange, Patrick isn't defending a position anymore. He's protecting a narrative. And when narrative preservation becomes more important than human life, the argument is already lost.